Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Welcome back to another episode of
Did you see
See
that?
That? Where we take our favorite reviews out of the group chat and into the world of social media to share with you. Before we get into our review,
I'm sure you've been wondering
where
where
we've
we've been.
been.
Besigawa.
Khwairahala.
Life has been laughing, but we
Khwairahala.
are back.
Mara, we are back. And what better way to make a comeback than to review the entire season of Adulting.
Our fun of the boys.
Our Fun of the Boys. And as I'm sure you are all aware, we have been reviewing snippets of episodes throughout the season.
Mhm.
And we thought it might be actually quite fitting to review the season as a body of work in terms of what was interesting, what were the issues,
What stood out?
what stood out. Um,
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, if you haven't seen it, where have you been? Where we are right now, the show has come to an end officially. It's not being renewed for another season. And essentially, in yesterday's episode, we see that a lot is going on. From Bonga's side, he's obviously trying to fix things with his wife. From Vuyani's side, he has now been gifted the club. From Mpo's side, he is now doing that whole thing of, oh, life is short. Let's possibly respect to each other, get back together. He's been the typical guy thing. And then Tiki Tiki.
Oh my cute.
R.I.P. Tiki Tiki. Tiki Tiki dies. GBV. Ikana.
Wena.
I was like, it's not a laughing matter.
It's not a laughing matter, but like, wow,
Dimingisi has ras.
No, she's not serious.
But he knew. Tiki Tiki had been observing.
Yes,
Look,
100%.
right.
But also, I think what it tries to highlight is that in any gender-based violence situation, there are always signs, and you could see throughout the season where when she would act out of character, where it would almost like click to him, and he'd be like, oh, like, this person is doing the most. There's a scene where him and Diminkis went out to a chilla's.
Oh my god, and she loses her mind.
And she loses her mind. Kakota, guys. She loses her mind. Kakota. And literally, you could see his life flash in the sense of, yo, this person, and also, do I want to be associated with this kind of person?
Yeah.
But in any case, he still continues to go back to her. And I think it's like reflective of like a broader theme of how Tiki Tiki's character this season was very much him existing in two worlds, and it was a push and a pull, and the one world was what Mapaseka, Halle Berry had to offer.
I was like, Mapaseka ke
Yes, I
Halle
finally found her
Berry.
name.
Okay.
Halle Berry. And it was, what she had to offer, and
a healthy, calm
relationship,
steady.
but he would also need to do a lot of work internally to meet her where she's at.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then Diminkis was reflective of his current reality and what he is used to, even if it's toxic, even if it's just a life of crime, all the things that have kept him where he has been.
Yeah.
And you kind of see him moving and shifting between those two worlds, and moving and shifting between these two women as well.
100%. And you see, though, towards the end of the season, how he has fully reckoned with the fact that, like, he actually wants to be a better person, and he wants to be with Halle Berry and everything.
It was just a realization too late.
He even brings himself to saying that he loves her. Cabanga iphinza ithi, grand shopping click.
But it's also just a thing of like, men have realizations when it's too late.
Oh,
couldn't you have had this realization earlier in the mid-season, perhaps?
Oh.
And now it has costed you your life.
Yeah, it's literally too late. It's a mess. It's a mess. So that's Tiki Tiki. I actually think in terms of the season and just in terms of story I feel like Tiki Tiki's character is the one that has
e- evolved and
evolved the most.
yo,
Even
yes.
though we obviously see him still going back to crime and all of these things, but as I think his character is the one that we see grapple between these two different
Mm.
worlds that you've spoken of,
And has had so much depth
and
as
has had
well,
depth.
you know.
Yeah, we've seen him
And
as a father, we've seen him
yes,
as a partner, we've seen him as
yeah,
a homie, we've seen
yeah.
him also try to be vulnerable with his
Mm,
friends,
yeah. And
letting letting Paul know that he loves him before he like,
mm, and I think like Nhlanhla Kunene,
mm,
the actor, I think
mm.
he was actually quite phenomenal
Yeah, he was brilliant. He
in
was
this
very good.
season, and just the different portrayals and characters he showed us, and the
Mm-hmm.
depth, like how he was crying, you could feel it on screen,
Mm.
and then also how you could see, he was pushing away that side of himself into a life of crime. There was so much versatility
Yeah,
in this season
yeah.
of him.
I won't lie.
Mm.
Nhlanhla Kunene portraying Tiki Tiki is what kept me watching adulting, like throughout. No, genuinely.
Wamurata Chomi.
No, no, genuinely. Just because for the first
Mm,
time, a gangster was humanized for me. Like I was able
mm.
to see them past the terrible things that they do. I was able to see him as a human, as a father, as a son, as, all of those things. And I thought that that was quite
Trying
interesting.
to provide, but is a life of crime
Yeah,
pulls him back.
a life of crime pulls him back.
Mm,
And I think, we all know people like that, and
agreed.
I just thought that that was an interesting angle.
Agreed.
So,
Yeah.
Nhlanhla, Nhlanhla, give him your
Another
flowers.
yeah, another phenomenal actor I think is Tim Ngozi,
He
who
was
acts
very good.
as
Bepeni.
he's a phenomenal actor,
He was.
but I think he's a phenomenal actor because we've seen him in Outlaws, we've seen him in King
Shaka.
Shaka, we've seen him in The River. Like he's such a versatile character, and I think also similar to Tiki Tiki, the depth of emotions and just
Mm.
he's phenomenal. But I think my issue in this
Mm.
season, and particularly with the storyline, is I think there could have been more
Mm.
that perhaps could have been done,
Mm.
because we
With his
see
character.
with his character,
Mm.
right? We see him and his wife, Nkanyezi, fighting
Yeah.
about, like again, it's a push and a pull, right? Bonga wants to be a traditional man, he wants to start a family, but he's also fighting his demons of like wanting to be this, but is also a cheater, you
Mm.
know? And then Nkanyezi is a modern woman. She's not saying I don't want to have children, but just not children now.
Mm.
But then um we fast forward to the end of the season, and suddenly Nkanyezi is pregnant. She
Yeah.
forgave him for the cheating, and then suddenly Hunali ngwana,
Unalingwana.
and you're just like, hold on, like was the depth of the storyline fully explored in its
Yeah.
entirety?
Yeah.
And I think I would have liked to at least have seen, just a little bit more depth from Mbebeni in terms of grappling with the fact that he's married a modern woman
And what that
and what
means.
that means. And
And the fact that Umushetsi knowing that she's a modern woman.
Umosheti knowing that she's a
And
modern
and
woman.
it goes back to that whole thing of like, why is it that after people get married, now all of a sudden we must abide by these rules that never governed what our
Yes.
relationship looked like in
Yes.
the beginning?
And I think like fine, make him a cheater,
Mm.
right? But like let's also see him and her tussling and pulling and but like we don't even see that.
Mm.
It's just a thing of like, get out, I'm divorcing you.
I'm
I cheat.
angry. They fight, fight, fight.
Yes, they
Yeah.
fight, fight, fight. There's a facade going on where Ganyezi is pretending like, she will have children, but she's hiding the pregnancy pills. So I think that storyline did feel a bit rushed from what we were shown all 12 episodes. And
Mm.
then I will
All of
episode
a sudden
13.
she agrees. Maybe it was one of those things where it was like, ish, Tiki Tiki's dead. So what else is happening? Like in their lives? Like how else do we move the story forward outside
Yeah.
of
It did feel a bit rushed
it did
though.
feel
Like the
rushed.
last
It did
episode did
definitely
feel
feel
a bit
rushed.
rushed as a
And
result
everything
of
was
that.
packed in
Yes.
as well. I also feel like they could have done a lot more with Mpho's character. particularly towards the end, because you can't tell me that after all his shenanigans,
Ciao.
we conclude with him being, those future memes that's like, listen,
Life is short.
life is short. Let's get back together.
Let's get back together. But again, even with Mpho, that storyline is a bit weird because you just leave us hanging with Palisa.
Yeah.
Whereas, for the first time, Mpho's storyline did have a bit of growth. We see him tussling with Zitu in the beginning, like he feels like he has ownership over her. And now when she has another man, he still thinks he owns her. Then he moves from, you know what, like I meet this woman, she accepts me with my flaws, and she also has a child. And then you kind of see that he's actually, like, for the first time thinking about grappling with what it means to be a better man for this person, fighting his demons. So now tell me why we get to episode 13 and suddenly Palisa gone, Zitu back. Njani. It just doesn't add up though. It's like, how did we get to that? Mpho was not checking for Zitu the entire season. He just wasn't checking for her.
But I do think that there were parts of him that, and I think it's that thing that men have sometimes where it's like, at the end of the day, you're the mother of my child. Kind of thing.
Life is short.
Tiki just died. Let's just, for the sake of umdeni.
But
what about Istima?
Even when life is short, in the shortness, that life is long.
I'm dead.
It's so interesting because it's like, it's funny how moments, like life-altering moments like that, will get people to be like, life is short.
Yeah.
But that's also, it's not a fleeting moment, but it's a passing moment.
Yeah.
And then, like, you have to go settle back into the reality of what it actually means to be with this person
and why you separated to begin
in the first place.
Yeah. But perhaps, in his time away from Zetu and having experienced Kimang Palisa and like him becoming a better person, perhaps it was one of those things where, and it's terrible, but we've all been in situations where you've made a person better for somebody else. So, and as I say, every episode, art imitates life, and Zetulele even says in one of the episodes that, like, wow, you've really become a different person as a result of this hunt.
And please don't hurt her.
And like, please don't hurt her. So I'm just saying that, like, it wasn't an unrealistic ending for Mpho's story for it to end that way, because we've seen situations like that, right, where you're with a particular person and it's just not the right time. You're not fully developed. You're not where you're supposed to be emotionally, spiritually, and all of these things. And then years down the line, it's like the one that got away, and I'm a better person now for you, baby. Let's go.
Oh, Sana, how unfortunate that person had to mold you to be amazing for somebody else.
Exactly. And it's the nature of life.
Ooh, Sana.
So it happens. And then Vuyani. Let's talk about his character arc and journey. First of all, in this season finale, I feel like this was the first time I saw Vuyani actually emote.
Yes.
And like,
it was stunning.
I actually felt like a little bit emotional.
I felt it.
I was like, oh, you can act.
Love it. Love you.
He was good.
He was good. Like, yeah, he was. I think the frustrating thing with Vuyani, but it's also, I guess, it also speaks to the entire season, because much of the critiques that I saw from viewers online was that from season 1 to season 3, there's just been very minimal character growth in this group of men as a group.
Every week.
Siyapepa, and so people were just like, really? And I think with Vuyani, that was a similar frustration, because it was like, okay, so we're going to go through 3 seasons of you cheating on Beth.
Yeah. And every episode is just, how much more can you do it? Oh, now you're going to do it with her daughter.
Like, it's just like, how am I? Like, to what end? Like, Like, you just have no self-respect. Like, you just like, how can I top my next cheating moment from the last one? You know? And it was just like, yo. And I think also, we just got to see him gain his independence from Beth too late. You know?
True.
It was
in like an episode.
In an episode, you know? And I think it was like, it was because Bonga decided to buy him the club, put the club in his name. And obviously him and Bonga have had like an argument because people were like, Bonga is the kind of friend who's just going to remind you what I did for you, you know? And you kind of see him for the first time where he does something selfless for his friend. And Uvuyani now owns the club. But we were robbed of seeing that all 3 seasons of what it actually looks like for him to like stand on his own feet
without relying on a sugar mama or
cheating on the sugar mama with her daughter.
Vuyani was a mess, actually. Vuyani was such a mess.
He was.
But also, I think what I like, and this is a conversation that you and I were having before we got on camera, about how adulting, even though we as viewers sometimes felt like, where's the growth? Every week it can't be the same thing. Drugs, sex, alcohol, and all of these things. Like, when do men have real conversations with each other? When are men vulnerable with each other? When do men hold each other accountable? Like the fact that like hold space for each other. Like the fact that like Paul is busy cheating on his wife, gets another house for his side chick in the same estate, and none of his friends are calling him out.
And they're all okay
to not hold each other accountable.
They're all okay to just be friends with him. Like yeah, you exhibit moments of deadbeatism. But it's fine.
It's fine. Like I think that's the part that was really frustrating me, was like, wow, is this an accurate representation of just how men's friendships are, where you guys just like don't hold each other accountable?
You'll be friends with the deadbeats,
bruh,
and it's just like,
even the whole thing of
nice time,
bruh, even the whole thing of in these last couple of episodes when Vuyani tells Unkanyezi about what Bonga did, instead of them holding Bonga accountable, Uguti, dog, you just got married. Why are you out here messing with other people? They get angry, exactly, at the fact that he told her.
And it's like, how about the fact that like, why did my best friend like go and hook up with someone that I like? Okay, even though like you were with Beth, now you're cheating. But anyway, like, why? It was just
the bigger issue was that he went and told the wife, not the fact that their friend
Bonga committed a like bro code, whatever. You know, it was just like, how?
And I think that was my biggest frustration. And I think I was trying to figure out, like, is it intentional that it was written like that because that's genuinely how men are, or what?
Yeah, I think that's been something we've been talking about a lot throughout the season, and how I think you told me that one of the writers responded to a comment on Twitter, and they said that this was a series that was written for men, you know. And I guess the thing that I've grappled with in this, right, was that like, what was the intent of adulting, of the show adulting? Was the intent to show how men behave, you know, and just to mimic societal norms of men's behaviors? Or do the writers believe that they have actually showed the intent of the vast range of men's emotions and characters? Like, what was it?
I think it was a bit of both. I think it was well, I don't know whether accurate or not, but I think it was a depiction of like, this is men in their truest form. This is a story of 4 dudes. And this is how they navigate their friendship. This is how they navigate what's happening in their lives. And these are the emotions that they're going through in their navigation of these things, right?
But then I come to you as a viewer and I'm like, series depicts reality, cool, but in the writing room, there was no part where you were like, granted, these are men, we're depicting societal norms and standards. was it just not a necessity to show the growth, or maybe that's an expectation we have?
I think that's an expectation we have, Chomi. And one could argue that one could argue that they've grown in some ways. One can argue that Mpho has grown. He used to be a cheetah, and now he's wanting to be with
Umpepeni just wanted to trap Kanyezi to have a baby. But after 1 year later, usase clapping. Really?
So fathers can't be in the club.
Like, they're still all in the club, in the very things that led them into temptations before.
Very true. What would growth look like for these characters?
Growth looks like Inabonga. I am a present father. We actually don't know if he's not a present father. We just don't know it. But it's just, I think people didn't expect the ending. You know,
the ending was flat.
I saw a few comments that were like, we spent too much time on the club scene, you know? And the club scene just mimicked, it was just a full circle moment to us finding them in the club in the beginning.
Actually, it started in the club and it ended in the club.
Yes, you know? So it's like, well, that is not growth. If we're going to talk about how the season started, how the season ended, they in the same place that we found them in.
But no, Tiki is now in the grave. He started in the club. He's now in the grave. It's true. He started as a scorer with a...
I need you to stop.
And then he ended up with a Mapaseka Hailey Berry. But he still died by the...
But Bonga knows that he is a cheatist, and he said, "I'm still gonna go to the club where I see the girls,
where I see the S's that are
shaking."
Anyway, yeah. I think this was a good place to end it, because I was starting to feel like every episode we are repeating storylines. Every episode we are going out, we're partying, we're having sex with people.
I agree.
And I was just like, at some point, let's hop off this train.
And I think this is something that I've always felt with productions in South Africa, especially like limited series where it's not a telenovela.
Yeah.
It's like ended when it's so good.
Yeah. You know,
while it's hot. When it gets to a point where it's repetitive, it's redundant, like it destroys the value. Not that it destroys, but it just decreases the tone at which we first found the season. You know? And I think a lot of people were just like, you know what? It's actually a good thing it's ending here, because at this point, if there was a season 4, what else are we?
What are we saying?
Is there to see?
Yeah. And although there were some people that wanted another season 4. When I asked someone, they were like, "No, I love watching the show because it reminds me why I should stay away from men." I said, "Ma'am,
why?"
She's like, "Now I won't have a weekly reminder of why I shouldn't stay away from these people."
Yay.
So yeah, but overall, I think Tedza did a pretty good job with the show. And I think it was good that it ended where it ended.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. Solid piece of work. Yeah, I think the first 2 seasons were really, really solid.
Yeah.
And I think it's only because of how solid the first 2 seasons were that then people, when they got to season 3, it was like, we have a higher expectation. Show me something different, you know? And that's where the comparisons like started to come into play.
Yeah.
But I think like in terms of like what has been produced, the shows that have been there, this was a solid body of work.
I think so too.
That they've actually, you know, put out there.
I think so too. I think the mere fact that we would be pissed off by Mpho. I don't know the actor's name, but wow. You did your job. The fact that I'd be pissed off by that man,
when he said,
he's doing a good job.
I didn't want to say that, but you said it. I said, sorry?
You're doing the most.
Who? I said,
you're doing the most.
I said, so vele men think like this.
100%. That time he's eating.
Baby mama one.
Other people. Yeah. But yeah, out of 10, I think I would rate it holistically. maybe not this season, but I think holistically as a show, like from season 1 to now, I'll probably give it a 7. Yeah, 7.5, 7. Somewhere
I would give this season a 7.
there.
I would give this season a 7. But if I had to look at like,
Mm.
and that season 1 and season 2 were solid seasons, just season 3 where we're like,
Yeah.
I think it would be an 8.
Okay. I think that's fair.
Mm.
Well, that's fair. Let us know what you guys thought.
In the comments.
In the comments below, let us know what you
Interact.
thought of adulting,
Mhm.
what you thought of the actors, what you thought of just the story. And yeah, follow us next week for our next review.
See you next time.
Cheers. We promise we won't be gone for long this time.
100%.